Welcome to Peak, Train Like a Girl, a podcast by girls in sport, for girls and coaches in sport. We're here to amplify your voice. It deserves to be heard. At Peak, we are a safe place for girls to hang out, learn, grow, and build community. We empower girls in sport and coaches with knowledge, resources, and support we think is necessary to thrive in today's athletic environment. Join us for bold conversations about the experiences of girls in sport. Our discussions will make you laugh, cry, cheer, get frustrated, and hopefully rethink the future of girls in sport for generations to come. So whether you're walking, baking holiday cookies, commuting, or cleaning your bedroom, take us with you. Follow us. It helps more than you can imagine. Check out our website and make sure you share with a female athlete or coach you love. Now, before I introduce our next guest, which I am over the moon thrilled to have on the podcast, I have to stop, and she's going to be super embarrassed, but I have to give a shout out and a clap and a congratulations to our intern, Megan, who just celebrated her senior night at the University of Iowa over the weekend. And I can tell you that she is a remarkable, remarkable woman. I feel so privileged to get the opportunity to know her and to see everything that she's accomplished. And again, we were just talking about this with our guest, that life is not linear, and Megan has certainly had some struggles and some setbacks and some pivots. And she's also had a ton of success, and she's made a ton of friends and community. And it has been such an honor and a privilege. And I just want you to know how much we support you, and we have been cheering for you. And we are so thrilled that you got to celebrate your senior night.
Well, thank you so much. It was a very, very special night, and I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Now, I am so excited to introduce to you our next guest. Sara and I met through this crazy world called social media. So we actually have never really met. But when her book, How She Did It, came out that she authored with Molly Huddle a few years ago, I knew that it was something I wanted as a resource for my girls cross country team. And it has been a mainstay in my library ever since. I actually probably distribute it out to athletes probably once a month. At one point, I had bought 15 copies that I have distributed out, and I hope that it is a resource that people keep referring back to and keep understanding how much love was poured into it. Now, I don't want to give any more away. I want Sara to be able to tell her story and her journey with girl in sport. So, Sara, are you ready to get warmed up?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. And honestly, that you saying that about it being a huge resource and helpful, like, goes a long way to Molly and I. That was like our whole intent. Is we were young girls searching for more knowledge, and we wanted the next generation to not have to look so hard and have some resources that they could use to be inspired and learn more about the sport.
Well, mission accomplished. So well done. All right. Vanilla or chocolate?
Chocolate for sure.
All right. This one I'm not sure. So I'm super curious. Beach or mountains?
That's hard. I'm a mountain girl at heart. I grew up in Arizona and love running trails. I do go to the beach every summer to New Jersey, but I could live and die in the mountains and be super happy.
Awesome. All right. Winter or summer?
Summer. I don't like the cold that much.
Probably my route. Yeah, it's pretty temperate in Boulder, right? So it doesn't really ever get.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have been. My parents are from Michigan. I went to the University of Colorado Boulder, but my roots are in Arizona, and I do love warm weather.
Nice. All right, Taylor Swift or the Beatles?
Probably, my daughter does not like Taylor Swift. She's a Pink fan, and I've become more fans of Pink. My dad and my parents made me, like, growing up, I listened to both. Probably more on the side of Taylor Swift, but I do enjoy the Beatles and oldies.
All right. Now I'm really curious. Do you ever run with music?
Yes, I did today. I actually starting to run a little bit more, and I did like a longer run, and I listened to music at the end to get me through.
Nice. I love it. We'll have to talk a little bit more about that later. But before we dive into things that are going to fill my soul, why don't we tell a little bit about you and your personal story with sport?
Yeah, well, I grew up in the 80s. Like, I was born in 81, and my mom growing up didn't have a lot of exposure to sports. She was kind of the first generation before like Title IX. And so she went to a Catholic all girls school in high school, and they offered basketball, cheerleading, I think tennis, and she played all three, and they had to like make their uniforms and then rent them back from the school. So it was a much different experience than probably much different experience than I had. I think she probably would have been a very good athlete. She just didn't, and she was good in her school, but they just didn't have a lot of opportunity. So when she was raising my sister and I, my dad wanted to get my sister and I involved in as many sports as we could. So I started out in a lot of co-ed sports. They didn't have like girl specific sports. And so I played co-ed soccer, basketball, and I played softball. But I grew up in Arizona, so I started swimming at a very young age and did summer rec swimming, and was a good swimmer, and decided to continue with club, and then became like a very serious swimmer by age like not like I joined the club around 9, and then became pretty serious through middle school, and was by the end of middle school was swimming like doubles and twice a day, and like compared to our practices. And so it was pretty intense, but I loved it. And I really wanted to swim in college. That was kind of like my big dream. I wanted to swim at the University of Michigan. I ended up going to high school. I swam my freshman year, and I ran a few of my friends from swimming ran cross country and track in high school. And or in middle school. And I joined the teams to be with them, and was good. And I was like, I always had like a very good PE mile time, like would beat the boys in the mile. But in my heart, I was a swimmer. And so and I had like a very obviously probably incredible aerobic base from that.
Yeah.
And then it was around like the end of my freshman year, I, my, I was struggling a little bit with some swimming stuff. Like our team dynamic was getting a little strange, and I wasn't enjoying it as much.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad really encouraged me to try. He's like, "You were really good, not trying very hard in running. So why don't you just run prep in the spring and continue with club swimming?" So I did that, and I was second in the state in the 800 mile and 2 mile. And then my dad kind of had a hard talk with me and was like, you're not really, like you're not putting a lot of effort into this. And when I swam at the state meet for high school, I was 8. Like I was making finals for state as a freshman, but I was clearly much better at running without a lot of effort. So that next year I decided to run cross country instead of swim for high school, and then never looked back. I kind of continued down the running path and would still swim like a few days a week, but not like I was before. So I made the switch kind of my sophomore year, and then ended up had a lot of success in high school and went to the University of Colorado, Boulder. And I was a part of 2 national championship teams.
Amazing.
That was probably like my most cherished accomplishment, was being a part of 2 teams that won nationals. We won one my freshman year, and then and Kara Goucher was a 5th year when I was a freshman. So we won the first national championship for Colorado ever before the men too. So that was exciting. And then my 5th year, both the men's and women's team won together, which was really cool.
Oh my goodness.
And I won a couple individual titles as well. So that was really great experience. And then I got to go on and run professionally for about 8 years from 2005 to 2012.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah. So that, and I had, like I actually, I didn't have I had some struggles in high school. I had some injuries in high school and college, but I struggled a little more in the post-collegiate, just finding support and,
Yeah.
making good decisions and figuring that out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, in 2012, I ended up having my son, and then I ran some road races and then qualified for the Olympic trials and the marathon. And then I got pregnant right after I qualified, got pregnant with my daughter. And then I qualified for the marathon trials and the track trials. And then that was kind of my last running like professionally. And I began coaching at the Grand Canyon University.
Which is, yeah, where you've been ever since, correct?
So I stepped down 2 years ago because of the travel.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, I'm ready. Like I'm in the proposal phase for another book. I wrote How She Did It. We wrote How She Did It almost 3 years ago, and we're going to write a book Molly Huddle, Alicia Montano, and I are in the proposal phase for a book on running and pregnancy.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we're hoping that it will get picked up and we can continue with that.
Oh my goodness. That would be awesome. So much in there and so much about your story and there's a couple things I want to circle back to. And if anything is not comfortable for you to talk about, I would love for you just to say, pass, please. But I do want to talk about some of the harder things just because I think it helps girls in sport to understand that they're not alone. So when you talked about the team dynamic in swimming and that it wasn't really a culture that felt right for you or a culture that you could thrive in, was it just that you weren't performing to what you thought you should be, or was there something else going on?
I think one, it was really intense, really young, and I think I was struggling with a little bit of burnout.
Sure.
I'd also qualified for junior nationals on a relay team and in an individual, and I think it was more of like a coach relationship. Like our coach was very, very intense.
Yeah.
And I was already an intense athlete, like
sure,
very driven. You didn't have to it was more like you had to pull the reins back a lot of times. Like I never want to miss a practice. I was hard on myself, and I've been working really hard to go to junior nationals for swimming, and I got picked. We had a relay that was supposed to do really well there, and he took a girl that I had beat all season over me to Boulder, and I was just upset because I felt like I was putting everything into it.
Sure.
And I didn't understand the logic with it. And I think as an individual, I can understand it's harder with team sports sometimes with things too, where that's the beauty of running sometimes because it is very,
cut and dry. Yeah.
Cut and dry. And you can see what you put into it. Often you get out of it. And I felt like I had put everything there. So I think I was very frustrated with that and just needed to get away from it for a little bit. And so I think running was a good way to channel that same energy into something else.
Sure. So that's the interesting piece. And I know that you and I haven't specifically talked about this, but I know when I listened to yours and Molly's podcast on Allie on the Run, you guys talked about a little bit around the girls' attrition rate, so the dropout rate. So one of the things that we're finding, and the statistics are pretty clear, is that when a girl is not supported or doesn't find community or gets cut, they don't typically find another sport. So you were lucky that you had something else like, oh, I'm pretty good at this also, so I can just go do this. So my question to you as a mom, as a coach, as a athlete, what is our responsibility in the high school level to keep as many girls in sport as possible?
I think that your point is really good. Is I honestly, I just, I was looking at a quote today. I think I reposted a quote from Steve Magnus, but it's, I think it's very, very important at every level to find, the, his quote was, don't underestimate the power of small wins, celebrate achievements, no matter how minor, to build momentum and confidence. This positive reinforcement can fuel your motivation and drive you towards larger goals. And I think it's really important to find the positive in the building process along the way. And I think when we don't, I think we can get so focused on the big goal that you don't you lose track of those little how important every day is. And even though every day might not be better than the last, if you're stacking consistent good days on top of each other, it's going to result in big wins down the line. And I think I see it with my daughter. She's in swimming now. She plays swimming, or she plays soccer and she swims. And she was in a 3-day swim meet this weekend and did a soccer tournament. And I've approached it a little different with her, where she's a part of a very good club, but she only swims 2 to 3 days a week. And she's not where I was already swimming 5 or 6 days a week. And I want her to play other sports. So she's played volleyball, soccer. She's on a club soccer team, lacrosse, basketball. So she's tried a lot of different things. But with soccer, I see it the same. I think a lot of these sports, and as a parent, it's really hard. It gets intense very young already. And I would rather her, I want her to experience a couple things right now. And when, she was in this tournament this weekend, they ended up runner up. They lost the last game to another team, and they were all down on themselves. And as parents, the parents could be very intense in that situation too. But I thought it was very good. The coach had a long talk with them, and then afterwards they were still sitting there kind of sulking. And all of the parents, we had several parents that played sports in college, and we were so excited for them. They played their best game they had ever played. It was a fast paced game. They brought a different level. You saw them play a lot better. And it's important for them to hear that from you and from other people, so they understand that there's positive, it was a very positive situation. And I think in the past, even when I was growing up, my parents were super encouraging. My mom was not someone that was would, she was almost the opposite, where she'd be like, you don't have to do this, if I'd be disappointed. Where and I'd look at her funny, yeah, I do. What are you talking about? But it's a good way to frame it. Yeah, this is a privilege. You're choosing to do this. This is fun. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this. And I think for these girls, it was important for them to hear, it's what you did today is very hard, and you guys played amazing. And sometimes it doesn't go your way, but that was a big step in the right direction. And with the swimming, I think it was good for me growing up, and that's why I wanted to put her in swimming again, just not as intensely as I did. It's a race within a race. So you're constantly trying to you're racing other girls and trying to win. Within that, but you're also trying to be a better version of yourself. So every race, improving your times or going towards a state qualifier or whatever the next goal is. And you're chipping away at those things and celebrating those small victories. So they they know like, oh, like, even though I didn't win, like I swam faster than I've ever swam before, or I tried something new,
Right.
my turns are getting better. So I think finding those little positive situations in anything that you're doing helps you like really reframe and get towards those bigger goals.
Yeah, I think that that's exactly right. And it's interesting as a coach, and I raised kids, and two of my three kids are actually coaches, which is kind of hilarious at the collegiate level. And one has actually moved on to the pros. And then my other daughter who teaches, coaches girls on the run. So it is very funny that my three kids ended up being coaches. And I'm not really sure if they appreciated the lifestyle, or our big thing is those that can't succeed athletically coach. Like, that's our big joke. Like, we weren't good enough to play, but we're good enough to coach. But I'm wondering, from that high school, grade school, middle school experience, and I talk a lot about this with people. I talk a lot about this with my kids who coach is, are we specializing too fast? And there are some sports. Our one daughter happened to also swim, and she swam in college. That was a sport where I could wrap my head around the fact, like, all right, we have to pay for her to go swimming because we didn't have a swimming pool in our backyard, like, right? Like, and even if we did, that wouldn't have been appropriate, right? But there's so many sports where, whether that's, soccer or, tennis, quite frankly, even maybe running to an extent, or softball, doesn't matter what the sport is, where these kids are gaining just as much by participating in other sports and not specializing. And here's my question, is that the monetization of our youth is a thing. I mean, whether it's AAU and listen, I'm a personal trainer. I certainly make money coaching kids. I'm not saying that I don't, but I never coach a kid during a season. And I never tell a kid, hey, listen, instead of, going out for your high school cross country team or your, high school soccer team, come work with me, which that is what you're seeing. And so to me, youth sports is as much about social, emotional growth and development as it is physical development. And I'm wondering, do you think that, or am I kind of like overstating?
No, I mean, now that I'm raising kids, my son's 11, my daughter's 9, like they're getting more and more involved in sport. And it's a discussion that my husband and I have all the time. And it's hard because the way that sports have gone, like rec sports are almost obsolete.
Completely.
Yeah, it's really hard to get like a high level or get an experience in rec sport
Sure.
anymore. My daughter did rec soccer, and I coached her team 3 times because they didn't have anyone to let her coach. Like,
Yeah.
they don't have a lot of people that want to volunteer to do those things. And it gets, I think there's more and more pressure to push towards club. And then these kids, like, it's not cheap to play these club sports.
Completely.
And so parents are feeling like a financial burden putting their kids in these things, and they're wanting to get something out of it. And I think that's what creates a lot of the pressure is like, well, if you're doing this now, like hopefully you're like, we're going to get like a college scholarship out of this. So there's different motivations
Sure.
where it wasn't there before. So it creates a different pressure for kids.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's a lot harder for them to play if the parent, like, soccer is like a year-round thing now, and it's hard for kids to play like multiple sports on top of one club. And if it's with the way it is financially, like it can be, really hard for anyone to be able to afford to do multiple sports. So
Agreed.
it's hard. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how we like go back, but I think school sports, like my frustration, we need to have more opportunities for kids to try sports young and
Agreed.
play. And we need to have parents and coaches encouraging kids to play in more than one sport, and not specialize early on. There's so many kids, like my daughter's in my daughter's club soccer team that don't play anything outside of soccer. And just because of the time commitment and the financial commitment with that.
Right.
And then we're seeing, and I'm friends with a few of the coaches in that club, and they do a good job, like with, they have a sports medicine, like they're a part of, it's the Phoenix Rising, and the Phoenix Rising has like a minor league MLS team here.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're affiliated, and then they have like injury prevention and a lot of different things, and they try to educate the kids, but they're talking about like they've had an increase in like ACLs and
Sure.
MCL tears, and I feel a lot of it is due to the fact that they're playing year round.
Yep.
And they're not developing, like they're overdeveloping their quads, and not
Yep.
their hamstrings are weak, and they're not, because they're just doing the same movements all the time.
Yep.
And so,
and that's what the science says. And that's what's a little frustrating for me. So some of it is, yes, and then we're getting kids in the weight room younger. And again, there's no advantage to that. And when you're talking specifically about girls, you're like ACL tears for sure on the rise, but so are bone related issues, stress fractures, particularly, foot, tibia, and when we're looking at girls running, and now running has become a year round sport, these kids aren't getting a break. So it's repetitive movement of any kind. And that's what people don't understand and it's not that running's not a repetitive movement sport, and that swimming isn't a repetitive movement sport. That's not the point. The point is that these kids at this age, prior to being fully developed, shouldn't be doing the exact same movement and motion 12 months a year. Like there's no benefit to them. So I think that's one of the things to me that's a little frustrating, is just helping people understand that your child from an athletic perspective will develop regardless of what sport they're playing, because they're learning things, whether that's how to interact with a teammate or how to respond from adversity. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Like they're developing the same amount of skills no matter what sport they are playing. And I think the thing with the money piece, and if I could just take a pause here, the problem I have with they're going to get a college scholarship. I mean, you and I both know that there are only certain sports where kids are going to get, quote unquote, a full ride. The rest of it, you're not getting a full ride. And by the time you're done paying for the nutritionists and the massage therapists and the personal trainer and the AAU programs, you could have paid for a college.
yeah,
It doesn't make any sense to me.
no, I think the motivation behind any of the sports should be growth and development of the person. And and if they're very good at something, maybe that'll the scholarship, or they'll want to continue on later on. But I think the number one goal should be to help them become a better person and learn things that they're not going to learn from just being in the classroom. And so I think, with team sports, you learn individual and team sports, you learn different skills, and learning to work. Yeah, like you were saying, learning to work with teammates and learning to work towards goals with a team, with something greater than yourself. In individual sports, it's not being afraid to put yourself out there and working towards a goal that can be kind of scary on your own. So, but I think it's hard with the money piece, because it brings more pressure to parents sometimes, where they feel like something has to come out of this. And I can see it, and it becomes, even with soccer tryouts, you'll have girls crying and parents getting upset, yelling. I'm like, it's hard. As a parent, it's hard to just step back. You got to step back and let them, you encourage them, but let them learn those things and earn those things. And it's a lot different dynamic than our parents' experience with our sport.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So a couple questions, and then I want to talk about some of the remarkable things you're doing, including talking a little bit about your camp. And I know you've got another running event that I think is geared towards adult women. So I want to make sure we save time for that. But two things I wanted to ask you. So first of all, since you've been in sports, you coached both men and women, and you obviously competed at the collegiate level and saw both sports, and now you're raising a boy and a girl. Do you think there's still a lack of equity as it relates to girls in sport compared to boys? Or do you think that's getting better, or do you think it's staying the same? Fill me in there.
Honestly, I think at the youth level, like, I think I grew up in swimming and track, which honestly, in like the big picture is pretty, pretty equal, throughout my experience.
Okay.
Even growing up in the early 2000s, like 90s running, the only experience that I mean, I guess my coming up through college, like high school, I had a football coach, and for our head track coach was a football coach.
Okay.
For the men's team, we were separate men's and women's programs. We shared the track together, and we'd be at practice together, but like meets, we'd sit separately. And during practices, my freshman year, he wouldn't allow the girls to run in lane 1. So we had to run in lane 2. And he was also our FCA director. And it was my first year, and I was better than most of the men on the team. And so we'd be doing workouts at the same time, and I'd be passing all of them. And I was running out in lane 2, and I was getting super frustrated. And my mom was always like encouraging, and I wouldn't say she was like a super feminist, but she was always like, whatever you put your mind to, like, Sarah, you can do, and like, don't back down. And, my, my dad, we didn't have a lot of discussion about that, about like men versus women or anything.
Right.
But they gave me a lot of courage. And so like I was trying to figure out how to like discuss this. Our coach at the time was just like, well, that's the way it is, because I kept getting upset by it. So I went to FCA like that next few weeks, and I just had I had known the coach, and I said like, hey, do you think like I was second at state this year. I'm passing all the boys on the track. Is there like any way we can start running in lane 1? Like, I don't understand why we're out in lane 2 when we're equally accomplished as the boys. Like, we were doing better. We won state that year in track. I don't think anyone had really asked him before.
Right.
And he didn't really, I can't remember his reaction exactly, but he started letting, like, the next week we were able to like share the track and use the normal track commands and go around each other. But I think I realized like just having a conversation with someone, even though it might be uncomfortable, and like, I think he was impressed that I was brave enough to have that conversation with.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think that was like the major inequality. I also, like, when I was at University of Colorado, we, like, scholarships were always equal. My coach treated us as equals. We did the same workouts. And we won the first national championship, and then the men won the next year. And Nike sent them like custom spikes. And they were like they were the Bob Kennedy spikes. I don't know if you remember those. Like, he had his own spike, but they did them in Colorado colors, and they sent them to all the men on the team. Well, Mark was upset because they didn't send any to the women, so he sent them back, and all the guys were really upset by it. But at that time, like, I think I thought that was really brave of Mark, because he was sticking up for the women. The women did win before the men.
Completely.
Didn't send us for the spikes, and then they send them for the men the next year. So I thought I was really lucky to have a male coach that like supported us like that.
I love that. That's such a great story.
And then, yeah, I think now, like, I'm not immersed, like, I mean, in the college level, I think I've seen it in other sports, like with basketball, with the women's like tournament and things, like not getting the same exposure. And I think Caitlin Clark brought a lot more exposure to the
Go
women.
Hawkeye, right, Megan?
That's for sure. Yes.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
know you're probably immersed in that, but I think, I think on the track side, we've been really lucky. Like it is a pretty even playing field in terms of like opportunity and exposure. I think with even at the pro level, like I even as an early pro, it was equal prize money, equal across the board. I don't know as many, like there may be inequities, but I just didn't see them as much.
Nice.
And now, like, I think as a girl, like in youth sports with my daughter and with my son, I think there is equal opportunity. I think as a coach, I think honestly, the hardest thing is did I lose you?
Nope, we're here.
Okay.
You're in.
I think the hardest thing is maybe scholarship wise, there's more on the women's side, on the track side because of Title IX.
Yeah.
With football having so many big numbers.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing for men, and a lot of the men's sports get cut.
Yeah.
Because of that. So I still think they need to figure out something with football. And I've heard that women's flag football is going to the NCAA, since it's going to be an Olympic sport. So maybe
that's interesting. I have not, we had the first year flag here in the state of Illinois, and my husband's actually a ref. That we have not heard that it would be a really tough NC2A sport. That's kind of the inklings I've heard from college coaches that I know that are like in sports like lacrosse, basketball, field hockey. But it'll be interesting. Yeah. I mean, maybe that'll help. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if flag football is going to have the numbers that tackle has, but
yeah,
I think that's probably the main thing that makes it difficult for men.
Sure.
Non-revenue sports.
Yeah.
So
basketball and football. Yeah.
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 And I think women have more opportunities in those sports to develop and excel.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Speaking of developing and excelling, I do want to talk a little bit about some of the exciting projects you're working on. I know you've got your book coming out, or a proposed book about running in pregnancy, but you've got a camp in the summer. So I want to talk about that, but you've also got something else going on, right? Like, there's another, but it's not a camp, is it? Fill me in.
So it's a retreat, like mini camp, where I'm doing it with Sarah Hall at a resort here in Scottsdale. It's actually out in Carefree.
Yes, Carefree.
Yeah, it's a really pretty part of Arizona, in like one of the nicest times in Arizona. So it's in February.
Nice.
It's February 9th. Let me make sure I have the dates correct again. And so it's going to be a 3-day wellness weekend, and it's a running retreat. So Sarah and I will be coaching it. There's going to be a big educational piece. Like we're going to do some seminars with all the women. We're going to do some amazing runs on the trails here in Arizona. The weather is always like very beautiful, 60s and 70s. The Savannah, like their resort is all about like healthy eating, and they have a ton of classes every day for like revolving around wellness. So they have yoga, regenerative, things to regenerate anything to like help recover, regenerate, to like be a better athlete.
Okay.
They have a spa with a hot and cold plunge. They have sauna. I've done their sound healing and like their breathing techniques. They do things on sleeping, like how to sleep better. A lot of things revolving around energy and putting good energy in your life. So I think it's a good way to like start off the new year with your goals and like taking care of yourself. And especially as I get older, like that's more important to me than anything else. Like I want the quality of my life and taking care of myself so that I can be a better mom and a better person and feel good day to day and be able to do the things that I want throughout my life. And I think that's probably the biggest difference with like, I think our generation now is like really pushing towards like taking care of ourselves and living long lives. So yeah, that's like, we're going to talk about running goals and how we can like, how we can take care of ourselves to be better runners.
Amazing. So it's February. Do you have the dates? Otherwise, I'll look them up. It's no big deal.
Yeah, it is, oh, sorry.
Okay.
I should have that right in front of me. I just didn't want to tell you the wrong dates. It is February 6th through 9th. Sorry.
Nice. Well,
And if you book before December 20th, you can get a free massage.
saw that.
Which is awesome. Their spa is amazing. They have a lot of different things. They even have like like a floating class, like floating, and you're in the pool and they teach you how to like breathe and relax, and it's supposed to like really like everything. So that's something that I want to take this next time. I haven't done that class before, but
So you'll be a natural.
yeah, I got this swimming got done. I do love water though.
Yeah, that is awesome. I'm definitely going to look at that. I hope we don't have a track meet that weekend because maybe I can say I'm going away for a quote unquote work retreat and see if I can make that happen. I think we talked about, I know Carefree pretty well.
Yeah,
And
it would be
Boulders.
so
Yeah, I know. It would be so awesome. And then talk to us about the summer camp this summer, what you guys are doing there.
Yeah. So this will be our 4th summer of we have Camp Elevate up in Prescott, Arizona. And I started this camp with one of my good friends, Matt Lincoln. He was also a professional runner. This last year, he just moved to North Carolina. So he's no longer doing the camp with me, but I have 3 other amazing coaches that run the camp with me. It's Shayla Houlihan, who's now the head GCU coach, but she's coached at Cal, Under Armour, and UCSB, and she was actually at University of Iowa also. So Megan.
Oh, wow. Go Hawkeyes.
So she's coached it a long time. And then I have my Jessica Schur, who we ran high school together, and she's the head coach here at Desert Vista High School, which is one of the bigger high schools in Arizona. And Bernie Montoya, he ran sub 4 in high school, or I think 4 flat in high school, and ran at ASU, and is just he's now coach. He was at Chandler High School, and now he's coaching he's moved back to Yuma and is going to be taking over the program there. So
amazing.
He's just a great role model for the kids. And so we have a great group of coaches. We're up at 6,000 feet in Prescott, and it's really nice in the summer because it's about 30 degrees cooler than Phoenix. You're getting in some altitude training. The trails there are beautiful. We do a lot of fun things in addition to the running. So we do some scavenger hunts and lips courses and games, and we always have like a really good group of kids. And the educational piece is really big for me, is teaching the kids like more about the sport, how to become a better athlete, how to take care of themselves, and how to have like longevity as an athlete. And so yeah, we do a lot of educational pieces, and we try to make it a lot of fun. And we've had a lot of kids like be really successful, like continue to improve after camp and get a lot out of camp. So that's our main goal, is really to like help those kids become better runners and better athletes.
Amazing. And is it sleepover camp? Will they sleep there, or do they find accommodation?
Yeah. So they're in dorms. The food is really good. It's a Christian camp up there, and they make all their food fresh every day. And yeah, we do s'mores at night. We've done it in conjunction with a pole vault camp in the past. This year, I think, is the first year we weren't able to do the same weekend. So we have like a lot of track and field people around.
So
And it's
fun.
fun. Yeah.
That is amazing. So I have to get both the links those and we'll make sure we put those in the show notes. So I'm definitely, I think I told you that's something I'm really looking at for our kids to do an away camp. So for my own reasons, I'm so glad that you filled this in there. It sounds like an amazing opportunity.
We've had some amazing speakers there too. Sarah Hall's been there. We had a handful of like the NAZ elite runners come and speak to the camp. So we haven't locked down who's going to be speaking this year, but we always try to get some accomplished athletes to come talk to the kids, and it's most of those athletes were also campers at one time too.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
And talk to our kids, to the younger generation.
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely amazing. I know we are winding up here. I could absolutely sit and talk to you forever. So thank you for taking the time out of your full life to be here to talk about girls in sport. I love that you shared so much information about a variety of sports. I think that is super helpful, particularly for our youth in sport, just to encourage them to try a bunch of things on for size and see how they fit. And, even if they don't fit right now, they might fit later on. That's one of the things that I talk a lot about with my athletes is that running is something you'll have for the rest of your life. You can do it anywhere. The entry cost is super low. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm so proud that we've got about 67 athletes that run cross country every single year, because I know that those are girls in sport that even if they lose sight of cross country, after high school for a little bit, it's something people typically come back to. So thank you for being here. I do want to cool down a little bit. So let's ask a few things, like what I'm trying to think of some things that I want to know that we didn't cover. Actually, we talked a lot about like calming and mental health. What's your favorite way to calm your mind and body?
I think my favorite way to calm my mind and body is being outside. I love, I was talking to my husband, we watched Yellowstone, but we were talking about being a cowboy or like what that lifestyle would be like. And I was saying like, I think I would enjoy it just because I just love being outside. I recently did a trip with my best friend we did Tour de Mont Blanc this summer.
Oh yeah.
And we did that 100-mile loop, and I came back and I was nervous about it because we're going to average about 20 miles a day. I run consistently, but I don't run that much. And so I wasn't sure. I was pretty sure like after the trip, I would need to take a big break and like recover. But it was incredible because I came back like feeling better than I started and just had like almost a euphoric feeling. And I think a lot of it was just like being away from my cell phone and being outside and not having like just worrying about getting to the next place every time and living life very simply. And so I think I would love to do more, or like be able to do more of that. And, yeah, I think my way to unwind is being in nature.
Amazing. I love that. I think we share that in common. All right. If talent were not an issue, what sport would you love to excel in?
Yeah, I think I love just sports in general. I was talking, one of the dads on the soccer team this weekend, we were talking about how just being exposed, like, like you can't play every sport and you're just exposed. And maybe you would have been like, how many kids out there would probably be amazing at something, but they just never got to experience it.
Exactly.
There's probably a million athletes that we'll never see that would be amazing at something. I don't know. Like for me, I I love watching basketball. Like I was like a huge basketball fan growing up, and I played a little bit, but I always wondered if I like put my energy towards something else, would I have been as good as what
Yeah.
I was with track?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just loved playing basketball as a kid. I loved watching. I was obsessed with the Suns growing up, and I like to take the kids to basketball. So
Yep.
if I was do basketball or race car driving, I love to drive fast. And I did.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I love going I love going to my husband would probably like make a joke out of it because I do get tickets all the time, but I, yeah, I love I love the thought of like being able to like, I would love to like go test out some of the faster cars and ride on like a racetrack.
Well, that is
That was just
super
not
cool.
part of my cards.
That's not me. So we do not share that in common. That's hilarious. Well, again, I cannot thank you enough. Megan, again, a huge shout out to you and a huge congratulations on your senior night and your incredible 4 years career. Yeah, it's super exciting. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us, share our episodes, join us on Instagram, Peak Train Like a Girl, and take a minute to explore our website. We're going to make sure we drop the links to everything Sara talked about, including the amazing retreat in February and the Elevate camp this summer.